Welcome to the Wooper Club Season 10 Week 1 Power Rankings. Week 1 is in the book for our low-tier season. I am IllLogic, coach of the Buffalo Bouffalant, and as always I am joined by one of our commissioners, SteveChuck, coach of the Waterdeep Wobbuffets.
I'm back.
And we are ready to do power rankings. With only 1 week in the book, we don't want to spend too much time on this, so we will hop right into it. And we're going to see number 1 is our defending champions, two-time defending champions right now. Newport Noctowls, coached by Alphalez, followed by your Buffalo Bouffalant, followed by Steve's Waterdeep Wobbuffets, followed by the Close Combat Club. This is our top 4 right now. Of course, with 12 teams in the league, we have 6 coaches 1-0. We kind of felt like these 4 exemplified a lot of the qualities that we really look for in these top teams. There's 4 teams that we think look the best as of right now after 1 week. Perhaps we'll be able to get a little more data here in the upcoming weeks, but really we just kind of want to dive right into it and see what caused these coaches to shine so brightly in our eyes. And we're going to start off right away with the feature match. Definitely go check that out whenever this comes out. Matt, coach of the Cincinnati Incineroar, is going to be hosting a weekly feature match every week, and decided this one was the one to watch. Definitely go check it out. So a quick summary of why we picked Alphalez as our number 1 coach after his 3-0 victory over the Akron Agrons. I think the one thing that stands out is this was a very quality opponent that was defeated by Alphalez. The Akron Agrons have had amazing regular seasons in the recent history here, and this 3-0 win was very decisive. It was very much based on positioning war, which I think the Alphalez played extremely well. A lot based on terrain. We see the Pincurchin out there. We see the Thwacky that was on the other side. Very much based on that. Hazard control. Tons of great defog, stealth rock, rapid spin used all around there. Strong play with Noivern and Decidueye to really open up Joey's team. And of course the decisive crit. So definitely go check out the feature match video on this one if you want to see a little more. But we saw just really good play from Alphalez. It was the closest match this week, Steve, but we still put Alphalez number 1 because of his good play against a quality opponent. What else do you have to say about the match?
Fantastic match. Love to see a good terrain war. It will be probably the one and only we get to see this season, as I think these are the only terrain and or weather setters we have. Very nice to have that Alolan Raichu in the back that was able to clean up anything that got out of hand, although it didn't come to that in this match.
Absolutely, but definitely good to see that in the back. That was a nice little answer that we didn't ever end up seeing to Slurpuff, right? Slurpuff with Unburden, of course, outspeeds everything with double speed, except for perhaps a Raichu with double speed. So the aggressive play from Alphalez with Pincurchin was rewarded, going for an aggressive recover in the late game, but even in mid-game, that crit was rewarded because he was aggressive with that, knew he had the safety of a Raichu in the back. So well played from Alphalez there. And for our number 2 coach, the Buffalo Bouffalant, I was able to enjoy a 5-0 victory. I have my own video on it, but I like hearing Steve talk about me. So Steve, talk to us about my 5-0 victory over your co-commissioner, Matt, and his Cincinnati Incineroar.
Yes. So against the Cincinnati Incineroar, you brought a team of Aerodactyl, Tentacruel, Steelix, Mesprit, Passimian, and Klotzer, and as you mentioned, secured the 5-0 victory. A very dominant performance, able to handle whatever Matt threw out and the Incineroars. There were various attackers that came out and set up in numerous ways, and there was always an answer. First up was the Jolteon, which was answered through defensive efforts of both the Mesprit, followed up with the Choice Scarf Passimian. Then Matt proceeded to put on pressure with the Hone Claws Durant, which was answered with the defensive efforts of Tentacruel and Scald, which was unable to get a burn. But then, of course, the physical bulk of Steelix able to easily take that hit and dish back enough damage to remove it. And, the third offensive threat Matt tried to set up your way was the Agility Entei, who did make it through 1 Mon, but wasn't able to get through Klotzer, which proceeded to have a fantastic ending of the game, cleaning up the rest of the defensive core and securing 4 KOs. Overall, very strong performance, all sorts of answers to anything Matt brought that was threatening, and, dominant performance as always.
Yeah, it seems to be my thing that I get a low-tier water type with 4 KOs in the first week of the season. Klotzer really coming through there. This is another case in which Amon didn't come out in a battle. Aerodactyl never made an appearance, but I think very much affected the battle. As you said, with all those setup mons, the choice to bring the Agility Entei in the first place so it can outspeed that. Getting to switch in the Steelix on an Ironhead from Durant because it was worried about Aerodactyl switching in, even taking out Jolteon, which was the only thing that could naturally outspeed it, or at least speed tie it. were all incredibly crucial and perhaps forced Matt's hand in various ways there. So another Mon sitting in the back that very much affected the gameplay there. Just I think some smart aggressive pivot play with some of the key players really helped out. But with that said, we're going to move on to our number 3 team, and that is you and your Waterdeep Wobbuffets, the only team to secure the 6-0 victory, and this one over Tony and the mighty Miltanks. Of course, Steve brought his team of Chandelure, Sharpedo, Verizon, Piloswine, Licky Licky, and the GOAT, Charjabug, against a team of Tyrantrum, Zoroark, Toxicroak, Copperajah, Articuno, and the Omastar. I think we're all very worried about that Omastar coming out immediately, setting up Substitute and Shell Smash on turns 1 and 2. Definitely something you see normally as a late game sweeper, but it was poised to poke some holes in your team until we saw that Verizon really come through. We see how effective close combat is against this team in particular, with only Toxicroak resisting it. And even after taking out Omastar in turn 3, it was a little bit of time before we saw any more KOs, but that was a whole bunch of really good positioning from you, Steve. Licky Licky, probably the other MVP here, handling Copperajah by itself, just able to stay up really healthy, using knockoff, wishing itself up really effectively. Even Chargebug actually did play some key roles here, some really good T-waves and webs, particularly getting T-waves off against a couple of threats that perhaps could have survived some of Verizon's hits there as well. Not to mention the Piloswine also breaking the Articuno a little bit, and finally Chandelure finally being able to claim the Toxicroak. And once that was out of the way and everything else was low enough, Verizon was able to just come in and clean up the close combat. Really easy, really clinical game. Another match in which we had a Mon sitting in the back the whole time. Sharpedo never made an appearance, but honestly, very well done identifying what close combat could do to the team overall. Steve, what else do you have to say about your victory?
Yeah, it was a fun match. Fantastic to see Verizon put in the work. I really did like the matchup it had, the ability to hit everything on the Miltanks with a coverage move. Although, as you mentioned, close combat really shined here and was the only move I needed with the given team and the ability to break through Toxicroak. So fantastic. I thought it was a great match, and looking forward to what else I can do with this team.
It was very fun to see the tier 20 Chargebug put in at least a good amount of work there. It definitely seemed like he tried to sack it a couple times, but it just kept surviving. The bus just kept on going. Very proud of that little guy. And finally, our number 4 team that we have in our power rankings is going to be the Close Combat Club. And John, talk about his 5-0 victory over the Baltimore Oricorios.
Yes, so John and the Close Combat Club brought a team of Porygon Z, Clefairy, Xatu, Jellicent, Manectric, and Machamp against the Baltimore Orcos, and again came out with the 5-0 victory. The big thing Sean did right here was getting in the right answers at the right times. A couple key instances, of course, the Xatu coming in on the Uxie Rocks, being able to get hazards set up for himself while denying his opponents. Fantastic. Having Jellicent in against the Rhyperior, able to scald for massive damage, as well as able to secure that 30% burn. Really limited what the Rhyperior could do, although based on the damage rolls, it did seem like Jellicent would be able to live 2 hits, or 1 hit and hit back in 2 hit KO with Scald. So Bird wasn't critical, but definitely may have influenced some decision. And then the Manectric, of course, being played fantastically, coming in on Magnezone T-Bolt early to take no damage there, as well as get a boost, and then secure multiple KOs, first the Magnezone, and then later on cleaning up. Overall, just having the right answers out, switching them in, and taking that offensive pressure and rolling with it. Porygon Z able to put in a lot of work while it was out, breaking down kind of the remaining walls before Manectric cleaned. And again, we see one key team member riding the bench, Machamp, never coming out. All sorts of power there that wasn't utilized or needed for this match. So yeah, overall, fantastic job. Again, another one of these dominant victories, landing John in the top 4.
Yeah, kind of interesting that we've seen a bit of a pattern of things being chipped down for something to kind of clean up with, except perhaps this time it wasn't what was expected. It seemed like Porygon Z was the one that was breaking for Manectric to clean up, so kind of interesting there. And as we all know, come on, I mean, Manectric, Clawitzer, Pinsir getting 4 KOs is a lot cooler than your Verizon getting 4 KOs, let's be real here.
For sure.
See, this is the whole point of the low-tier season. We get to see some ones like Manectric get 4 KOs in week 1, something we may never get to see ever again, which is super cool to see it played so well. So those were our top 4. We do have some teams that we do need to keep an eye on. Of course, there were 2 other teams that got victories and a couple other teams that we thought played very well in defeats. The first one we definitely want to touch on was the match between the Summit County Psyducks and the Route 1 Burbs. To touch on this quickly, the Psyducks had a very strong early game where it seemed to be snowballing a little bit with the Scrafty until the Route 1 Burbs were able to respond, force it out, and then really get into a position to sweep with the Lycanroc until it missed a Stone Edge. And that decided basically the entire game there. But wow, what an awesome back and forth game. If it weren't for the Stone Edge, we probably could have seen it the other way around. But as it is, we get the technical upset from the Psyducks, though perhaps it wasn't quite as dominant or impressive as the other teams. So we have them slotted in just a little bit below as both teams to watch. As again, the Burbs could easily have gotten the victory here otherwise. Do you have anything to say about this match or these 2 teams?
I will say the Burbs did a fantastic job of identifying what the Lycanroc needed to win, with the exception, of course, of accuracy here. Identifying the Claydol as kind of the main threat to its sweep, and once that was removed, that it was golden, as well as, hitting off the Choppleberry from Duraludon. Whether or not he knew it was there to begin with or was worried about it, he found it and removed it, and there was no answers if, 80% was 100%.
So true, so true. And even after seeing the Scrafty not being intimidated either could have potentially been a bother for him, but worked around that very well. And then the same kind of happened in reverse, where Mantine was able to clean up with only Vaporeon and Charizard left. Next up, the Seattle Steamrollers were the other team to win and start off the season 1-0. We do have them ranked down a little bit lower. It seemed to be a pretty straightforward and easy match for them. It was a decisive win with a few sweepers. We definitely saw Pinsir come out to play with 4 KOs. Another awesome mon to see come out strong. Only a tier 20 mon, but was able to pick up 4 KOs just about consecutively there. Moxie is a very good ability. Perhaps maybe a little even brain dead play. Didn't really need to do too much thinking. Was able to just toss out threats and have them go to work pretty well for him just because of the strength of what they were. Chad played his game pretty well. Steve, anything you'd like to add?
Chad had a fantastic job. Was able to show off one of those single type Pokemon. He had such a fun time drafting and was able to do some great things with it. So we'll see if these mons continue to do work the rest of the season.
Chad's undefeated streak in the regular season continues. Remember that he did finish last season, Season 8, undefeated until the finals. We'll see if he can keep that up or not. And finally, we do want to touch on the Akron Agrons. We talked about their match a little bit. Of course, he was in the feature match as well, but we did think he played overall quite well. The positioning game with Thwacky in particular was just very impressive. We got to see a couple of spinners in there. The Excel Gore being able to outspeed just about everything naturally. We don't think this is the end of the road for Joe. 0-1 against a good team. That's nothing for someone of his caliber. We definitely think he can bounce back. What do you have to say about Joey?
Fantastic game. Just his opponent had a plan for him. He did seem a little reliant on his Rillaboom substitute of Thwacky, which Joey big Rillaboom fan, or at least there's a meme that he is. So we'll see if he becomes a little over-reliant on this 20-point monkey to fill that hole.
And perhaps convince us that this is worth more than 20 itself. Seems to be a pretty good bargain so far with that, and probably Pinsir putting in the most work so far from the 20s. So that's going to do it for us. We had our top 4 again just a little bit ago. It was the Newport Noctowls, the Buffalo Bouffalant, the Waterdeep Wobbuffets, and the Close Combat Club. But after 1 week, it's just about impossible to figure out exactly who's going to be where. We have some awesome hype matchups this next week. Week 2 is one that will be incredibly difficult to pick just one match to feature. So I do not envy Matt for that decision. Thank you for joining me, Steve, and that'll do it for us. We'll see you for the Week 2 Power Rankings coming up in a bit. See ya.